for me, hope is very much tied into the idea and importance of resiliency. If you believe in something, then you generally have the conviction, you have the courage to actually go about and do something about it. That ability to fundamentally believe in something so deeply that you're willing to tackle difficult things and then keep going back, even if it's not always easy and it's not always fun. My name's Linh Do. I'm the editor-in-chief of an environmental media organisation called the Verb, and I share hope on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Well, Linh Do, you are in Australia right now, I believe, and there's a lot of people out here who know who you are, and there's a lot of people who don't, because there's a lot of distance between all these places we talk to. So tell me, what are you doing today? Where are you? What are you all about right now?
Good morning to you, although good evening from Australia right now, the fun of time zones. So my name's Lynn, for those that don't know me, and I guess one of the biggest things about me is that I'm an environmentalist through and through. Something that I've always been really passionate about is the environment, different climate change issues, and that's taken on quite a few different hats over the years. It's seen me play really traditional campaigning and like community organizing type roles. It's seen me work a lot with politicians, but it's also seen me run a whole bunch of workshops. So I actually spent today out at a high school doing a couple of like really low key but actually super important educational workshops on what people could do on environmental issues on a day-to-day basis. But I spend most of my days at the moment occupied with an organization called the Verb. So the Verb is an environmental newswire service, and we do a lot of environmental storytelling, journalism, communications, telling a lot of these stories that people don't otherwise often get to hear. So on a day-to-day, that keeps me pretty busy. But today was a little bit different because I got to go and hang out at a school.
I think that sounds like fun, honestly. It really does, the high school part especially. That's great.
Sort of the highlight, I think, of my week was just hanging out with a bunch of 14-year-olds again and just wondering the whole time, was I that aware when I was 14 about all of these issues? Like, that's pretty awesome that they all are.
Yeah, I know. That's so true. I've got a couple of middle schoolers in my house, and it's funny how much more aware they are than we are. And some things, even currently, they're more aware of these issues. I'm like, wow, that's a good point. And I do my research, and they're right. They're really smart.
Yep.
I'm glad, too. Well, let's dive in here. So, Lynn, you know how this works. Here's what we do for anybody who's new joining the show. We're asking 1,000 people who are leading their part of the world in a hopeful way 5 questions about hope, doing a huge research project on how hope works. So, question 1 for you is, what's your definition or favorite quote about hope?
I think for me, I don't know if I have like a definition or a quote per se, but for me, hope is very much tied into the idea and importance of resiliency. One of the questions that I got asked today actually is, climate change is sort of depressing. Why do you keep working on it? That doesn't actually sound like a lot of fun. And it's totally true. Climate change is a really depressing issue. And the more you think about it, the more you're like, whoa, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to solve and tackle this issue? And I guess for me, hope as a result stems from 2 things. The first is, if you believe in something, then you generally have the conviction, you have the courage to actually go about and do something about it. And for me, that's really inspiring, and that gives me a lot of hope that people are willing to tackle these big issues that are really quite challenging, and that sometimes can be really depressing. And unfortunately, because of the, I guess, enormity of some of these issues, it means that you're not necessarily always successful in what you try to do. And to have hope isn't to just go forth and like be brazen and do these amazing things. It's actually the ability to get up the next day when things don't quite work out and say, you know what, I'm going to give it another crack. I'm going to try again, and I'm going to see what I can do today. And I think for me, that's what hope is that ability to fundamentally believe in something so deeply that you're willing to tackle difficult things and then keep going back, even if it's not always easy and it's not always fun.
That's a great way to put that. So who in your life has shared that type of hope with you? Who's been that tenacious in your world to really keep going back and give you hope? That'd be question number 2.
Yeah, so I think like For me, a whole bunch of different people. I think when you, I guess, like personally define what hope means for you as opposed to taking on someone else's definition and like sort of thinking about what it means to you on a day to day, you start to recognize it in so many more people and in so many more situations. You don't necessarily just have to look at amazing, like Nobel Peace Prize winners or people that you never meet. You sort of see it on the day to day. So, like for me growing up, I think a lot of that was embedded with my parents. They both came to Australia as refugees. And I mean, I obviously was fortunate enough to not have that lived experience, but from all the things that you learn in school about what war actually is and what it means to be a new person in a new country where you don't speak the language, but yet my parents are, like happy people. They have great lives in Australia, and like that gives me a lot of hope that they went through, I guess, like a really difficult time, but like made it through the other end because they kept trying. To again, like to go back to the school example that I had today, there was that one kid that came up to me after one of the sessions that I ran, and I guess you could sort of tell that this was the student that like other students would pick on, but she gave me a whole heap of hope because she told me a little bit about herself, why she was really passionate about the environment, and how even though school was a little bit tough for her because she didn't necessarily connect with her peers, she was really excited to know that there were people like me working on environmental issues. And it was just that idea of, oh, right, like that's really cool that things aren't great for you, but you can see that bigger picture as well. So for me, I guess like, yeah, I feel really lucky actually to be able to see and be able to draw hope from a lot of the people that I meet because I guess hope comes from being able to, for me as well, seeing people who are super passionate and like just going for it. Like that gives me a lot of hope that things are going in the right trajectory.
Those are good examples. It does me too. And the examples of people immigrating from one country to another, particularly during a wartime, some of those stories really are powerful. And I think it's really cool that you get to live with people who've actually done that. It's a great way to learn. Well, question 3 then. How are you having to use hope? So you seem to be a happy, well-adjusted person who's doing some great things for the world, and you're out there helping a lot of people, and people are looking up to you. You got it all together. Has there ever been a time in your life when you really needed hope somehow to pull through?
Yeah, it's this funny thing of I do think I'm a really happy person, which is like awesome. Who doesn't want to be happy, right? But it's this weird conundrum that I've never been fully able to grapple with because climate change is so depressing, and like to spend your day thinking about climate change and working on it is just like super sad. Like 95% of the time, just like, oh, this is like not a good news story. Oh, that's not a good news like development. And like that's unfortunately the face and noises that you make all the time. So I guess for me, hope is actually really important to be able to have something that keeps me going every single day, day in, day out, like for weeks on end. Um, so I don't know if there's been like a particular time that's been difficult because in some ways almost every day is a little bit difficult because the more you think about these issues, the more you realize the size of the fight. So for me, the way that I utilize hope within that sort of context of needing it every single day to feel rejuvenated and energized is that I ask myself that question, and it's a bit of a cliche because I think it comes from a saying is, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? And I think that's what really gets me through this entire sort of depressing series of facts and stories that I sometimes find myself in. And I have the privilege of working with some really amazing people all over. But one of the big things that happens as a result of that is you sometimes also say really difficult stories and sorry, to say stories is completely crazy because like these are real people that I know, but you sometimes see people go through really difficult circumstances because climate change is affecting their lives in the sense that they're about to lose their house. They're about to lose their entire like sense of culture because their island is sinking. Or you see campaigners that work on a policy area for years on end to then not see it get passed through, Congress or like whatever their particular national legislature is. And you see how that hits people. And that's really difficult. And I think like something that I feel fortunate with is knowing that the way that I'm driven by hope has meant I haven't felt that crippling, I guess, the crippling side effects that come with working on climate change. And I spend a lot of time thinking about, it's great that I feel like this, but what is it that I can do to help fellow people and fellow colleagues that don't have it as easy, I guess, who actually feel not so hopeful? How do people get out of that space is something that I'm really interested in. It's all well and fine to feel hopeful, to feel happy, but what happens when you hit and reach a moment in your life where suddenly things don't work out? What do you do then? So I think that's what I've been spending a lot of time thinking about lately, actually.
Well, me too. And that leads into question 4 really well. So you are dealing with a subject in a really unique space that doesn't seem hopeful. You know, you see all these stats on climate change, and you see islands that are literally, sinking, or I guess they might be staying the same, but the water's rising, either way you want to look at it. And then there's all this shore issue coming on. I mean, there's going to be a lot of our world that's underwater soon, which means a lot of lives disrupted. What do you do with that? I mean, so question 4 is, how are you sharing hope today? So how do you bring hope to someone who, really you can't go up to them and say, well, we got this fixed last week and the water's going to stop here. I mean, before it's fixed, their neighborhood's gone. What do you, well, how do you do that? How do you talk to people that are in a really tough situation? Because that really crosses a lot of genres. There's a lot of people in lots of tough situations.
Yeah, and it's it's so different when you're talking about people losing their whole livelihoods as opposed to, earning 10% less in the next year. Like, it's just such a fundamentally different question. So one of the things that we do at the Verb is tell amazing environmental stories that people might not generally hear about. So we don't necessarily always cover the biggest piece of legislation that's just about to be passed in like whatever country. We talk about what people are doing on the ground so that people have that sense of connection. But we work with, I guess, like, without wanting to cross that line of just providing positive news stories. We don't want to just be that outlet that ignores the reality that this actually is a tough situation. So for us, but one of the ways that we share hope is actually by tackling the issue head on. We don't want to oversimplify what's going on. We don't want to like treat people as if they're dumb. And we don't want to lie to people and say, "Hey, we've got this. Everything's going to be okay," because that's actually not necessarily the case yet. What we want to be able to do is share really inspirational stories about things that are happening today, reasons why we can be hopeful about tomorrow because people are taking action today that's going to have some sort of positive influence tomorrow. But we still want to, I guess, have that underlying message of this is awesome, no doubt about that. But actually, so much more needs to be done. And here's how you can get involved, or here's how you can get your neighbor involved, or that, your local politician involved, and like caring and talking about these issues too. So for us, it's that really fine balance of, yes, let's talk about the awesome things happening without denying the reality of what's going on. Because I've always drawn the most inspiration and hope from seeing people doing things. And that's seeing people doing things from telling someone on the streets, "Hey, I just noticed you littering, pick that up," to people that go and sue their governments for polluting and, damaging the environment. And like both are really different. But for me, what I guess stands out is the fact that these are people doing something because they care. And that's what we want to be able to celebrate. And we want to keep celebrating that until enough people are doing something that I guess that will actually have a positive impact on the environment. And it's it's a big challenge because we need all 7 billion people on this planet to be doing something. It's actually not good enough that only 10% of us are doing awesome things, or 20%. We all have to change the way that we think about these issues.
That's great. And it's so forward thinking, so long term. People think, oh, if it doesn't fix it today, it's not good enough. But really, there is a 10 and a 20 and 100-year view to what you're doing that's really exciting. It really is. There's so much that our grandkids will get to benefit from. And they'll be really busy too, because there's still going to be stuff to work on there. And I think the forward momentum of your hopeful projects is exciting. And it gives a lot of energy and wind in the sails to get it on. I like that a lot. Hey, question 5. If somebody's trying to grow in hope or take some very basic steps to, get off their seats and do something now. They just need a little bit of a push. What are the simplest steps you can come up with to say, hey, just start doing this? Environmentally or in any other area. It doesn't matter to me. You go for it.
Yeah, awesome. I think one of the things that happens today is we are inundated with hopeful messages. And I think about that just in the sense of flicking through my Instagram feed. Like you flick through the Instagram feed and you just have lots of people posting like inspirational quotes or like how people are trying to get really fit by hitting the gym. Like there's heaps and heaps of example. And that's sort of awesome because I look at it and I'm like, oh, cool. Like I feel really good. But I realize that it's sort of superficial and shallow for me. Maybe not necessarily for the person that's posting, but it's superficial and shallow for me because I'm just sort of observing something from afar. I'm drawing some hope from it, but not hope that really sustains, not the sort of thing that like will keep me motivated and going throughout the day. And I think that's where hope starts. And I know this is going to sound just as cheesy as the Instagram post that I've been saying, but hope sort of starts from within, and hope sort of starts from what you're willing to do as well. There's, I think, a really big difference between, oh, I was really inspired by what you did, to I was really inspired by what you did, so I decided to do something about it as well. And that's something is like completely different for people. Something that I found really useful about, I guess, beginning to grow in hope, and actually not just grow that hope, but deeply embed that hope to make it that day-to-day thing where you generally are more positive than not, and you generally can see like the good side of things, is to talk to people about it. And I know that sounds like a really simple thing, and I do believe you should be taking more action than just talking, etc., etc. But like it fundamentally starts at that. It starts at people don't really share what they're passionate about, what makes them happy, all the things that actually inspire them. That's just something that you're happy to be on public transport, flicking through your Instagram feed, going, oh, that inspires me, I'll click like. Instead of actually turning to the person next to you, maybe you know them, maybe you don't know them, maybe they're your best friend, maybe they're your partner, maybe they're your parents, and actually telling them, hey, did you know that I really care about this issue? Or whatever it happens to be. It doesn't have to be an issue. It might be the fact that you care about your health and fitness, for example. And then you tell them, hey, I'm really passionate about this, but it's not that I'm just passionate about it and thinking about it all the time. I think I'm going to start doing something about it. Maybe that means I'm going to start hitting the gym at least like once a week. Maybe that means I'm going to start donating to like an organization that I care about, or like start volunteering somewhere. And the more that you can embed that in, and the more you start talking to people about it, it means that more people will start telling you exactly the same things as well. And you create, I know echo chambers are often thought of as a negative thing, but you create this echo chamber of people like doing awesome things because they care. And I think for me, that's not just a way to grow hope, but it's a way to like keep hope as part of like your every single day, as a part of your life, rather than just something that you like occasionally stumble across.
You are so right. This conversation is so much more inspiring and laced with actionable stuff that I can actually get engaged in than if I was reading an Instagram post. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's the conversation and the relationship and the, hey, I'm your friend. Let's link arms here and let's go tackle this thing. If it's environmental or getting healthier or getting education, whatever it is. Oh, I like it. Okay, so back to roll backwards here. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those things. If we do want to find you on those and see what you are saying, where do we track you down? Because you got a lot going on. I want to see what's going on. Yeah, tell us where.
Obviously mentioned Instagram because I just don't feel I have enough followers. So you're all very welcome to follow me on Instagram. So my Instagram is Lynn Loop. So that's my name, LINH, followed by Loop, LOOP. My Twitter is just LMDO. So almost all of my name. And the best way to follow and keep up to date with what's going on and what I'm working on, and a lot of these environmental stories where you again like might be able to draw some hope or like good ideas from, is the Verb. So that's www.theberb.org. And if you don't understand what I just said because I'm Australian, You will be able to figure it out. If you listen to it multiple times, the Australian accent starts to make a lot more sense.
It's the best accent ever. So the verb, THEVERB, like the part of speech, is a great place. Everybody needs to go check that out. It really is cool. And then you can find Lynn on all these other social media places as well. And we're going to post all those links on the interview page for you on iShareHope.com. So anybody, if you're out for a run or at the grocery or whatever you're doing right now, you can always hit iShareHope.com and all of those links are there. So if you can't write them down right now, then there you go. Wow, Lynn, super fun. Okay, so give me a quote or two. We start each episode with your name and I Share Hope. So if it was me, I'd be like, hi, I'm Chris Williams, host of I Share Hope, or entrepreneur, or father of 5 kids, or whatever, and I Share Hope. So I'm going to hit mute on my microphone and go for a few. We'll put them at the beginning here.
Hi there. My name's Linh Do. I'm an Australian who shares hope. Do you want me to do 2 runs of that and maybe another thing? Hi, my name's Lynn. I'm the editor-in-chief of an environmental media organisation called the Verb, and I share hope on a day-to-day basis.
That's good. A lot of those.
Also,
okay, tell me this. So how are you doing this? Did you get an education directly in environmental studies, or did you just stumble into it and say, hey, this is my passion. I'm heading this way?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, this is what I've been doing in these workshops is, I guess, helping young people figure out what it is they're passionate about when you have so many options. So for me, stumbling onto environmental issues was like totally by accident. It was just one of those things that we started learning about in science, and I was like, whoa, this seems interesting, / this seems like a really big issue that I'm like a little bit concerned that we're not talking more often about. And so that's what I started doing. I just kept talking about different environmental issues until I realized, okay, I've talked myself to death. Next thing is actually doing something about it. And that's how I first got involved in really cool environmental campaigns and starting to think about what people could be doing about it as well. And from there, I did go to university and like get the appropriate education. But it completely started from a point of knowing nothing.
That's really cool. And you did it. Look at you. Hey,
Here I am today.
Linh Do, you've been just super fun to talk to, encouraging. I wish I was 14 and you were coming to my school to teach me stuff 20-something years ago, because I wish I was well prepared for the things that we're doing now. If I had gotten a 20-year head start on this, I think I could have made a bigger impact. But there's 20 more years ahead of me, so I'm going after that. Thank you for your time and the education and the hope. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Chris.
You bet. Bye-bye.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at iShareHope.com and claim your free copy of the top 10 actions of hope from world leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.